All right. Well, with that, let's show you what we've been talking about in action. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. So what you see here is a crew portal, which outlines and really centralizes all the financial information for a given subcontractor. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the agents we have and all the capabilities. Let's focus on the agent that we built in conjunction with Forethought, which is our materials agent. I alluded a bit to this earlier, but essentially what we're doing here is, as a subcontractor, I've hooked up my email. Every single time I get an email, our AI systems are ingesting relevant content and summarizing that materials related data for me in a very straightforward and simple to understand tab here. However, this is still classic Web 2.0. I have a table here. I have toggles. I have to filter through it. It's very useful, and there's some capabilities I'll show you, but let's really focus on the conversational element here. So to give some context for the conversation, there's typically two problems as a subcontractor focusing on materials that I want to solve. One is understanding where I'm being overcharged. So if I've been quoted a price versus billed, I want to make sure that I'm being billed fairly. The other is understanding general price trends so that I can negotiate what is typically one of the biggest line items. So now let's open up the conversational interface here. And as Rowan mentioned, Forethought here in a headless fashion is basically fed into all of our crew process data. And what you see here is a summary of all of my different projects. So now let me simulate what a typical customer uses our conversational interface for. So here are some of the projects, and Willow Creek seems to be one of the projects I've spent the most on. I'm going to ask, what are the top 5 materials I've spent the most on for the Willow Creek Community Center project? Now, this is something I could manipulate in this spreadsheet or pull up in Excel and spend 20 minutes trying to understand, or I can just get a quick answer here that is comprehensible. And it looks like the ceiling fan is a material that I unexpectedly am spending more on than I had anticipated. Now, subcontractors tend to work with different suppliers, so there's a competitive element here, and I might ask, okay, wow, I'm surprised how much I'm spending on ceiling fans. Which vendor is giving me the best rates for ceiling fans? So now it's doing a lot of aggregations. Rowan can speak more to this, and it's identified. Let's see here. Okay, interesting. So there's 3 vendors that I've purchased ceiling fans from, and the unit rates vary somewhat significantly. And it looks like this Garner Pro Grade Materials is providing the best unit rate, and for a pretty comparable amount of units as one of the other vendors. So now I want to see, okay, how much would I save if I purchased all ceiling fans from the best priced vendor here, Garner Pro Grade Materials? Again, I could do this myself, but this is a simple aggregation that is going to propel this conversation forward. Great, there's clearly some estimated savings here. Now here's where I can combine some of the other insights. I see this is our bill versus quote view. And if I filter to overcharged, by the way, I could do this through chat, but I'm just showing the whole experience. here is a visual of how a unit price versus a quoted cost differs. So I'm actually being charged more than I expected. Given this, for the sake of this conversation, why don't I go to the Willow Creek project, and why don't I now take this to its completion to help me finish the job here, which is to actually negotiate my next bulk purchase. And so I'm going to say something like this. Okay, great. Help me now draft an email to Garner Pro, grade materials, to negotiate my next bulk purchase of ceiling fans. Please reference the helpful competitive insights surfaced here. And also, please note to them that I am being overcharged on some key materials that I'd like to revisit. It's going to help me draft an email, and I'm not going to show this in this demo, but because Crew is hooked up with the underlying email, we actually can fully complete the job to be done here. And Crew, facilitated by Forethought, can contact the supplier on behalf of the sub, of course, with their consent and review. And once they have approved this behavior, we can begin to have the agent work autonomously to run through a similar workflow again and again. Rowan, is there anything you want to add here?
So this is kind of just the beginning. There's kind of a whole stage of or progression of touch points with a customer lifecycle, and so this is kind of the informational side. There's more to be done in terms of integrating into those other stages. But yeah, this is an awesome
Great. I'm going to stop sharing.